This is the 415ers podcast brought to you by the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network with 95.7 The Game. Please download the Odyssey app, rate us, subscribe to us there. That's Marc Grandi. I'm Evan Giddings, twice a week with you here in the off season on the 415ers. The last thing, Mark, that we want to get into is kind of an up in the air definition, but I saw Brian Baldinger on Odyssey's In the Huddle podcast, also very good. Would recommend going to check that out on the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network. But he is our NFL insider and essentially said that, the 49ers have a chance to do something special this season. Now, I know that's kind of a blank statement, but what he's getting at is the fact that Baldinger believes that the 49ers have the number one defense in the NFL, which I will absolutely hear him on, and they have an offense that is balanced and one that everyone can eat, essentially, around Brock Purdy. Is also assuming that Brock Purdy is going to be, the starting quarterback in week one. But can it be? My question is, what would be a special season for San Francisco? And then secondly, can it be a special season without a Super Bowl?
It's a good question because you asked the question, what would be special? And my mind immediately goes to winning a Super Bowl. I think the 49ers are at this weird point where they've knocked on the door. They got to the Super Bowl a few years ago, lost, of course, to the Chiefs. Don't mean to bring up bad memories. The last 2 years, they've been back to the NFC Championship game. One absolutely heartbreaking loss. One not as heartbreaking, but still very frustrating considering it was an early game injury to your quarterback. And then you really never felt like you had a chance after that. You've been so close and you've kind of teased your fan base so many times over the last handful of years that it feels like nothing short of a Super Bowl would qualify as special because this team, not necessarily this iteration, but this team and this core, I mean, the George Kittles and the Fred Warners and the Deebo Samuels, they have accomplished almost everything that you could except winning a Super Bowl. Now, getting to the Super Bowl, that would be a great accomplishment. Winning an NFC championship game would be fantastic. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. But my mind immediately goes to, well, you got to do the thing that you haven't done yet. And the only thing that this group hasn't done yet is win a Super Bowl. But then there's the flip side where you're being led by a seventh round quarterback who's entering his second year. His first season ended with a UCL injury, and he's not really going to have a normal offseason. How could you expect that to be a Super Bowl winner? I'm kind of balancing those two extremes right now, but I think I got to go with my first instinct, which is I think only winning a Super Bowl makes this a special season. There could be special moments, special individual accomplishments, but team-wide, I think you got to win a Super Bowl.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, look, I generally don't abide by an expectation of a championship just because even if you are by far and away the best team in the league in whatever sport you're in, the probability is stacked against you. Like in the NFL, you got a 1 in 32 chance. Major League Baseball, NBA, a 1 in 30 chance. Those aren't good odds. So I generally do not believe that one should expect to win it all. Let me ask you this. Was last season for the 49ers special?
It's a good question.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
I think it was.
Yes, it was. And that was coming off an NFC championship in which the following season, aka 2022, you were expecting, maybe not expecting, but the definition of a special season would be a Super Bowl. And you just told me that last year was still special without a Super Bowl. Why? Because of an unforeseen seventh round Mr. Irrelevant quarterback. Now, I don't know if the 49ers can necessarily replicate that as, we're trying to sort of figure this out, but is it outlandish to believe that the 49ers might have another injury at quarterback this year, Mark?
Yes or no? Certainly possible, yes.
So what if Trey Lance or Sam Darnold or, God forbid, but you never know, Brandon Allen comes in off the bench and helps lead this team to another deep postseason run? I'm not saying that wouldn't, if they fall short, be, disappointing, but the way that football seasons tend to work out, especially in San Francisco, you cannot predict. And it is very difficult on a week-by-week basis to expect anything at this point based on the last couple of years and how they've played out. I do believe this season can be special without a Super Bowl at the end of it because we just saw it, because we just saw something that we totally did not believe possible, and yet they still almost got to the final game. I know it may come off and sound like I don't think the 49ers can win. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But to me, Mark, they can still have a special season without winning at all.
Yeah, and it doesn't come off that way. I understand completely what you're saying. This almost feels like it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. Like argument conversation a little bit, because if you were just to poll 49er fans like at different checkpoints throughout the season last year, like after week one when it's the monsoon loss against Chicago and Trey Lance doesn't really play like you were hoping or expecting. You're like, oh, this guy might not be who we were expecting. And then he gets hurt in week two. You pull the 49ers after week two. You got the win, but Garoppolo's back. He looked all right, but you don't really know how to feel. He has that terrible stinker of a week three in Denver, where remember he had the safety where he stepped out of the back of the end zone and there was the whole lip reading gate. Or did he say, Kyle, your plays suck, man, or whatever it was? There was all of that. 49er fans at that point are probably thinking like, no chance we win a Super Bowl. This is a dumpster fire. Lance got hurt. We have to watch Garoppolo again. He's struggling. This is going to be bad. And then he starts playing well. I know there were kind of some hiccups for another few weeks. And then you acquire McCaffrey. And McCaffrey hits the trifecta of touchdowns against the Rams on the road. Niners win that game. They never lost another regular season game. But then Garoppolo gets hurt. And you poll fans then, you're like, well, there's really no chance that this could happen again. And then Brock Purdy comes in and he doesn't lose a regular season game and this team takes off. So you got a number of different answers is my point if you ask that question at different points through last year. So 100%, there are probably a lot of things that will happen this coming season that we can't prepare for, that we can't account for, that will change our perspective on this team. And if there's an injury to a major key player, but it just gives way to another future star, similar to how Brock Purdy came into focus last year, sure, that changes the perspective. But if we were to assume, and it's not a safe assumption considering what we saw last year, but if we were to assume that this is a straightforward season, no gigantic season-ending injuries to really key players, maybe you miss a week or two here or there, but you got a full team for the postseason, you're a top 3 seed in the NFC, I think most fans would say, maybe not in as few words, but it's championship or bust for the 49ers, but you're 100% right. Unforeseen circumstances can 100% change how you feel about a season as it moves along.
And that'll wrap it up for this episode of the 415ers podcast. Again, we're coming at you twice a week. We appreciate you listening. If you are listening on July 4th, Independence Day, very happy 4th of July to all of those out there. Please be safe for all you pyromaniacs out there. If anybody's sipping, no driving. You know the rules. And Mark, I look forward to our next episode on Thursday. How about that?
Yeah, it should be fun. And don't pull a Jason Pierre-Paul and accidentally blow off a digit on 4th of July like he did a few years back. Be safe. Be safe if you're celebrating the 4th.
Well said. That'll do it for this episode of the 415ers podcast. Again, please download, rate, subscribe to us on the Odyssey app. Check us out on YouTube on 95.7 The Game's channel. Subscribe to us while you are there. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Enjoy the 4th.